This story is based off a series of games rated MA 15+ and contains detailed gore and sometimes harsh cursing. If you are offended or against any of this, and you have 5 seconds to click off this video, you have been warned. Hey everybody, I assume that if you are still here, then you're alright with the things that happen in this. Well, you know what I mean. But anyway, my name is AussieBrony, and today I am reading Fallout Equestria. Past Sins was actually what was voted for, but only one person voted, so it's not really a thing. I don't know. I wanted to put the Past Sins soundtrack in the background for my Past Sins readings for the right timing, but that would have taken too long and too much time, and I was never really bothered, really. So, yeah, I will eventually do Past Sins, but I'm going to be doing Fallout Equestria at the moment because it's awesome, and I haven't actually read it yet. So, I will be reading chapters as, those who haven't read this story already for themselves or heard it, then will be sharing the experience of seeing how awesome this story is together. So, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to start the recording of me reading the story. So, yes. Yeah. So, I hope you enjoy, and goodbye. Grey. The walls of the maintenance stalls were very dull grey. The particular wall I was standing at had a merit of being very clean grey. Pitbugs were notoriously hard and reliable, so being the stable's pickbuck technician meant that there was a long period of time of doing nothing. Being the pitbuck technician's apprentice meant that I was assigned to all mundane daily chores, while my trainer took extended naps in the back room. Chores like cleaning the walls. This wall needs a mural. I let myself fantasize, picturing the overmares agreeing and ordering Palette herself to turn our entire store into one of her brightly coloured masterpieces. Palette was the greatest painter in Stable 2, and like every skilled artist, that made her a stable treasure. Life in Stable 2 inevitably began to eat at your spirit. You were born in the stable, you lived your whole life in the stable, you were going to die there, and of course your life was largely laid out for you to see by your Cutie Mark party. So the Overmind insisted that a new song be added to the stable broadcast each week, that public areas were brightly painted and adored with uplifting and motivational murals, that regular parties were planned, all in an effort to distract and stave off depression. Reality came crashing back as I started and stared at the eternally blank grey. Beautifullying maintenance areas was tragically low priority already, and the pickbuck technician store was one of the least trafficked parts of maintenance. I felt my ears droop as I started to realise that I'd be starting at this same grey wall nearly every day for the rest of my life. I was staring. Oh dear, is it really that bad? And there she was, the Velvet Remedy. The gorgeous charcoal charcoal-coated coated unicorn, with streaks of colour in her white mane, and with a voice as smooth as silk and rich as the finest chocolate. She was standing in the doorway of my stall. I felt immediately grateful that I had finished the cleaning and simultaneously and ashamed that the room was so beneath her. I couldn't believe she was standing there. I'd seen her on the stage above us at late parties. I listened to her songs, recording every new one on my pip buck, on my new pip buck, so that I didn't have to wait to hear it again. I'll admit it now. I had a crush on Velvet Remedy for years. Me and at least 300 other ponies. My mother used to laugh at it. Little Pip, she would always say. Velvet Remedy's barn door doesn't swing that way. It took me a couple of years to understand what my mother meant, and it took me several seconds to process that Velvet Remedy had asked me something. Huh? Wonderful repose, Little Pip. So elegant. I wanted to dig my way through the concrete wall and pull the chunks over the top of me. She smiled sweetly. She smiled at me. And in that amazing voice, "You look so heartbroken when I came in. Is there anything I can do?" Velvet Remedy offered to help. Me. I was shocked back to my senses. Velvet Remedy must have some reason to be down here. Some pip buck reason. It wasn't like she was just going to it wasn't like she was just wandering around the maintenance, after all. Looking around, I realized that I was the only pony on duty. My teacher was, as usual, asleep in his office. Oh, no, it was nothing. I tried to regain composure. How may I be of assistance? Remedy's expression was both compassionate and unconvinced, but she lifted a forehoof, raising her pickbuck to my gaze. A more elegant model than mine, with her initials and cutie mark. A beautiful bird with wings outstretched and beak opened in a song, embellishing it tastefully. I hate to be a bother, but it's begun to chafe. Could you replace the padding? Oh, absolutely. I was already levitating the special keys to unlock a pip buck from a pony's foreleg. As an apprentice pip buck technician, I had all manners of special precision tools in the pockets of my utility barden. I'll have it done right quick. The pip buck came off with a click. That's a rhyme. Velvet Remedy chuckled hesitantly, lowering her hoof. I know. That's all right. Take your time. I'm going to put some salve on this leg back in my room and rest it up for the afternoon. That's right. Velvet Remedy was performing at the Stable 2 Saloon tomorrow night. I would have to polish it up, make it worthy of being worn above her hoof. If I spent all night on it, I could give it a full tune-up, have it running as smoothly as the day she got it, and still have it back to her before the show. All right, I'll have it back to you by this time tomorrow. You won't be disappointed, I promise. She smiled at me again, and all the grey in the world couldn't darken my day. Thank you. And then she turned to go. I watched her cutie mark disappear around the doorway. Then she was gone. The next day I was whistling one of Velvet Remedy's songs as I walked down the halls towards her room. Her pickbuck was hovering along beside me in a field of magical levitation, freshly padded with the best lining I could find, looking shinily and new. I was tired from a long night of all work. I think that's supposed to be work, but in high spirits. Velvet Remedy was going to be so happy with my work. Turning the corner, I was starting to find my breviary. I don't know what that says. by the massive ponies gathered outside Velvet Remedy's room. Damn, I was gonna have to battle my way through hoof print seekers and paparazzis. Levitating the pip-buck higher, I started to shove my way into the crowd. She's gone! How could she just leave? The hushed voices and panic whinies around me grew alarmed. Why would she abandon us? Gone? Velvet Remedy was gone? And then the words that stopped me cold. I didn't think the stable door even could open. She was gone outside? Don't worry, every pony, boomed the voice of the overmare from somewhere in the crowd. I have a tag on each and every pony in the stable. I will personally send out a rescue party. We'll have our Velvet back by the end of the day. Worry not. I felt I was drowning in cold, wet cement. My gaze slowly moved up towards the pip-buck floating above me. I lowered my head, trying to back out of the crowd, curling the floating pip-buck close. When the overmare brought up Velvet's remedy tag, it would lead every pony not to Velvet, but to her pip-buck sitting in the maintenance. With a thud, I backed into some pony, startling me enough that the levitation field evaporated in a poof that, and the clean and shiny pip-buck clattered to the floor. Turning around, I found myself eye to eye with the overmare. She didn't speak, her gaze turning to the pip-buck on the ground, Velvet Remedy's initials and cutie mark clearly visible. What is this? The overmare spoke slowly, dangerously. All eyes turned to me. I could feel every pair of eyes. Nobody spoke. The silence bore down like a lead blanket. My mouth went dry. I couldn't find my voice. I didn't need to. I could feel a wave of loathing. Dozens of Velvet Remedy fan ponies, and I was the pony holding the reason why their idol was lost to them. The overmare's voice was low and surprisingly gentle. Take it and go to your room, swiftly. She didn't need to tell me twice. Twiggly Lions meeting minutes later. I lay on my bed that evening, poking at Velvet Remedy's pip-buck, as the radio in my own played yet another reenaction of the tragedy that day. I couldn't believe it. Velvet Remedy was gone. I couldn't understand. How could she leave? Why would she go? The door of Stable 2 was closed and sealed. Only the overman knew the secrets to opening it, assuming it could even open, which obviously it could. But why? Nobody really knew what was outside, if there was anything out there at all. Historical books suggested the world outside was blasted, lifeless and poisonous. That was, at least, the common and logical assumption. But a ghostly story somebody told me at first, and only, at my first and only slumber party, had given me horrible nightmares and still lurked in the shadows of my head. A tale of a pony who somehow got the stable door open and stepped outside, only to find that there was no outside. A great nothingness that whisked the pony away, devouring her soul, so that she was nothingness as well. I knew that wasn't the case, but mental images still haunted me. The two things I did understand was that Velvet Remedy had gotten me to remove her pip-buck so the overmare couldn't track her with it, and that I was screwed. Being the smartest pony my age, and the last to get my cutie mark, did not fascinate building friendships with my peer ponies. Mother honestly didn't help either, nor did waking up screaming at my first summer party. So I was used to being alone, but I'd never had enemies before. I'd been beneath the notice of other ponies. I'd never had one hate me. I really couldn't blame them either, even though it totally wasn't fair. They were upset and hurt, and needed a scapegoat. The news hadn't mentioned me by name, just Velvet Remedy's custom-decorated pip-buck was found in the possession of a pickbuck technician pony. But with the whole two of us, it wasn't hard for every pony to figure out, even with the scents outside her room earlier. And even without the scene outside her room earlier. The overmare was speaking on the radio. We are all feeling this loss, but I want to remind every pony that Velvet Remedy chose to do this. She chose to leave her home, to abandon us, her family. She betrayed my trust, and she betrayed yours. Just as she betrayed the trust of the pony who she tricked into removing her pitbuck, ensuring we could not find her. I know many of you are angry or hurt. I urge you to direct that anger where it truly belongs. As thankful as I was for her words, it wasn't going to change the resentment that I would face every day, even if every pony kept to themselves. It hung in the air like old smoke. I distracted myself with the errant pitbuck, taking note of an encrypted file. I had spotted it yesterday, figuring it was probably an unfinished new song. I didn't want to open it then, both out of the respect for Velvet Remedy's privacy and the dislike of spoilers, but I guess it didn't matter anymore. The song would never be played. Opening a pouch in my utility barding, I withdrew an access tool that would allow me to remove the encryption safely and easily. It was a sound file. I played it. The override code for opening the door to stable 2 is CMC3BFF. Cutie Mark Crusaders 3 best friends forever. That's clever. I shut up in surprise at what I had heard. Swiftly, I turned off the radio and played it again. I didn't recognize the voice. It was female, kind of sweet, and had a strange accent that didn't sound like anyone in the stable. But now I knew how Velvet Remedy left. I must have sat there for hours, contemplating what I should do. But finally, I made my choice. I was going outside after her. I was going to bring her back. Squiggly line meeting later. I'm blinking too much and I'm getting watery eyes. Nah. I stood there, staring at the huge steel door that sealed stable 2 away from the horrors outside, and at the two guard ponies who blocked my way. I had my saddlebags packed with apples and necessities. Even a big book of arcane science for something to read. I had 2 canteens around my neck. I was ready to go, but the overmare was making sure there was no follow-up acts. Insistence and glowering down looks weren't getting me anywhere. My horn was glowing, but they stood their ground, unimpressed. They weren't going to let me anywhere near the control panel. Hey, aren't you the filly who let Velvet get lost outside anyway? One of the guards inquired daringly, taking a bullying step forward. The other guard looked away in disgust. I'm not sure if he was disgusted at me, or if he felt like the overmare seemed to about ponies wanting to take it out on me. What? I don't know. I was kinda hoping it was the former, considering what I was about to do to them. Thud. The metal footlocker above them dropped onto their heads, knocking both out cold. Earth ponies. They never see that levitation something up behind you trick coming. I was at the controls, entering the passcode from Velvet Remedy's pitbuck when the Overmind's voice boomed through the nearby speakers. Stop! I order you this instant! Yeah, that wasn't gonna happen. Guards! I want every guard and guard pony at stable 2 door. Stop that filly! Ah, crap. My hooves flew up to the main switch for the door, and I prayed to Celestia that the code worked. Then, with all my strength, I threw the switch. A loud clanging filled the air, followed by a hissing of steam, and a great rumble that shook the room. as I watched the massive bolt that held the door from Stable 2 shut slid back. A huge hinge arm swung down, attaching itself to the door, and with a teeth-hurtling squeal, pulled the massive steel door away. Randomly, I found myself thinking it in my mother's voice, Stable 2's barn door isn't going to swing that way. Ah! The, the door to Stable 2 wasn't supposed to swing at all. Even though I threw the switch, I was stunned to see it actually open. You don't have to do this, little Pip, isn't it? The open mare's voice kicked me out of my stupor. I could hear the hooves galloping guards drawing near. I took a step towards the door. Don't worry, I'll bring her back. No, you won't. If you leave here, you'll never be let back in. For a moment, the unfairness stung. The Overmare was willing to send out a search party to bring Velvet Remedy back. But then, Velvet was special, and I was not. Part of me wanted to turn back right there, crawl back to my room, and my deary but safe life. Drawing myself up, I stepped out the door. Squiggly mind went lion minutes later. With a final hiss and clang, the steel door of Stable 2 closed behind me. I don't know what I expected to find just beyond the door, but it certainly wasn't this long, dark hallway that smelled of rotting timbers and sulphur in the air. I was no longer in the stable, but I wasn't outside yet either. I was in limbo. I turned on my pitbuck light and recoiled with a gasp at the skeletons of long dead ponies which littered the hall. The outside of the stable door was married from where ponies had slammed it until their hooves cracked and shattered, trying to get in. Moving forward quickly, I discovered that the hallway opened into an old room with stairs leading up to a horizontal door with a shattered lock. The entrance from the outside world into Stable 2 had been cleverly disguised as the door to a humble apple cellar, and by disguised I meant that the person who built it had been building an apple cellar. Taking a deep breath, I trotted up the stairs, swung open the cellar door, and stepped outside. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, so that was, yeah, I can't actually remember. I don't think I ever knew who the writer of Equestria is, and I, I'll go check it out later. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Only if you want to, of course. um, so yeah, see ya, I guess. Not very good with outros and intros, but anyway, so yeah, see ya.